thanks for the intro. Yeah, and thanks to Phil. So Phil and I were sort of trying to work out like how long we've known each other for, and I think it's around about 30 years. Met him over here in Perth about 30 years ago, and sort of been in and around the same things. I can tell you, I've been in technology for so long that one day we went to this session by this little upstart company called Microsoft, and they were talking about this thing called Active Directory. And I don't know if anyone knows what Active Directory is. If you're a techie, you would. And we thought, that ain't going to go nowhere, because at the time the world was, well, certainly in Australia, was dominated by Novell. And then, anyway, things sort of moved on. And then they come along and introduced this product called Microsoft Exchange. And we thought, oh, yeah, good luck with that one as well, guys. You know, they ain't going to go anywhere either. Anyway, the rest is history. They now dominate the world. They've got this product suite called Office 365, and you know, it's now gone on to this subscription service, if you like. So what we're going to talk about here is, I suppose, modern work and how organisations can, you know, structure their data and enable it to, and then use that structure and also security to enable them to activate that data through the use of AI. So there's a lot of AI tools out there at the moment, and what we're specifically talking about today, tonight, whatever you want to call it, is about Copilot for Microsoft 365. There's a plethora of products in that space, but very specifically, thanks for coming along. Very specifically, that's what we're looking at. And really, for organisations to be able to benefit from Copilot, if you like, which is actually underneath it all uses technology from OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, and a partnership that they've had together. So obviously, if you're using ChatGPT, you're effectively interrogating, you know, your own, you know, one-off documents, or utilising the information on the large language model or the internet. Whereas with Copilot, and if you've, you know, implemented all of the features around SharePoint, potentially Intune, Teams and things like that, you can then actually use AI to create a narrative from your own data, to utilise your own data safely to, come in. We wouldn't want anyone to miss out. We're mixing drinks there, I see. That's hopefully go well. Basically use your own data to come up with information from your own information, if you like. And yeah, so that's a bit of an overview of, I suppose, the pieces that make up the Microsoft Modern Work Stack, but there's a whole lot of security like 2FA, Defender, and different bits and pieces that sort of fall under that as well. So yeah, AI has been around probably, you know, in the supercharged form at least now for the last 2 years, if you like. However, you know, it's been there in the background for a very long time, but obviously OpenAI has really brought it to the fore, and now with Microsoft, they've given businesses the opportunity to really utilise it within their own organisations. And I really think this is a massive opportunity for small and medium businesses to really get a leap on some of the bigger companies, because, you know, it's the SMB businesses that have the ability to move quickly and to adopt this sort of technology in their businesses, to really leverage it and to take advantage of it. And I suppose at the end of the day, making, you know, your team more productive, and also hopefully maybe a bit more innovative, and come up with some ideas faster, quicker, products, you know, bringing products to market and things like that. Good idea. I didn't bring my glasses, so I can't read my notes. But yeah, I suppose the other thing too, and what we want to talk about, is potentially the pitfalls of utilising AI in your business. You know, there are some pitfalls, particularly if you as an organisation, you know, haven't put any policies in place, haven't put any guidelines for your team to use. And effectively, at the end of the day, if you're not providing your team, your staff with these tools, they're probably using them anyway, putting your data out there, and potentially giving you some fairly bad outcomes, bad results, sharing your data with the wrong people. And I think Phil's going to probably talk a little bit more about that down the road, so I won't get too bogged down there. So yeah, certainly with Copilot, implementing any AI, but as we're saying, we talk about Copilot for Microsoft 365 here. You really want to make sure that you maximise that investment that you're making, and potentially doing some sort of an assessment of your data, how your security's set up, and things like that as well. But also, making sure that you train your team, making sure so that they, you can leverage and maximise that investment. Because am I speaking too fast? No. All right, good. Well, I'm trying to get through fast anyway because I've got a demo later on, and I'm sure that's going to go real well. So technical readiness, and also training your staff as well. Now, so within Microsoft 365, there's a number of flavors of licensing that you can use for licensing your team, yourself, and what have you. And depending on the version of the software or the version of the Microsoft 365 package that you're using, there's going to be additional functionality that you can add to that, which will help you to protect not only your data from being shared outside your organisation, but also people getting access to the wrong data within your own organisation as well, so that people aren't using AI or Copilot for that matter to look up company employment records or things like that, or wages and things. So yeah, so there's obviously there is a process that organisations would need to go through to ensure that their data is protected and that and is not being overshared both internally and externally. Okay, here's the plug for Moncrieff. So we can help you with, I suppose, depending on where your organisation is on that sort of, on that, I suppose, modern work journey. We still come across companies that aren't even using Microsoft Exchange at the moment, or Exchange Online. They've still got the on-prem. Actually, we're doing a migration at the moment for a hospital, in fact. Implementing SharePoint, implementing Teams, taking you on that journey, and then at some point bringing AI into the equation as well. So here's some of the services that we provide, I suppose, potentially around the sort of AI, data governance, and cyber security as well, because they're all sort of go lockstep with each other as well. Dan was getting a bit of a sales pitch on that today, weren't you, Dan? So, thanks for coming along for round two. So that's great. So on to Copilot. So there's a few sort of use cases there that you might be able to use the technology for. And again, going right back to the beginning, it's whether your organisation has, I suppose, come on board with that whole Microsoft sort of stack, if you like, the SharePoint, Teams, those sorts of things, and having the security around that. And there's another 6 for you there as well. But this is the bit where I demo and die. Actually, I found my glasses. Because I wouldn't be able to do this next part without it. So there you go. That was quite serendipitous, as they say. So here's where I jump out of the Prezzo and jump into, now it's a little bit of a eye chart, this one here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So initially, so this is obviously Microsoft Outlook. We've got Copilot enabled there. So I'm going to turn that off. So in this situation here, and this is where I suppose Copilot is different to other AI tools, it is actually embedded within the Microsoft 365 application. So it's inside there. So here's an email I have to respond to here, and I want to reply. Is that working?
Far right.
Huh?
Far right. Apply. Go down to right now.
Oh, sorry. So it's all good. I'm getting there. So down here, you got the little Copilot comes up. This is where I need a little torch to, and you hit that button there, and off goes Copilot, and you can see what it's done. It's filled in that little table there. It's come up with a response.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
I haven't used it personally, but is that now Copilot detecting the actual emailing receipt?
Yeah. So it's read it.
Write it back.
Yeah, and it's come back. So yeah, then you can have a quick read of it. Yeah, that sounds good. So you can keep it, you can discard it, retry, or you can just keep it if you want. Then quickly go in, make some changes to it, and off you go. Yep.
And is that on the web?
Well, this is actually within the client, the Outlook client. Sorry. What? Oh.
It was me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Oh, Bruce.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cloud-based. I don't use the computer.
Okay.
Only on the laptop.
All right. Yep. Okay.
Just wondering if this was.
Yes.
I'm not using it.
Well, Phil, there you go, mate. I knew you'd come in handy sooner or later. Yeah.
Not straight, but
Yeah.
how about the demo?
Yeah.
So this is, as Matt's pointed out, this is inside the Outlook application running on the laptop.
Yeah.
And most of you probably have an Outlook running on your laptops or your Mac or your phone. There's a web version too.
Yeah,
so how do
I'm
you,
totally 100% web.
you're in the web? Yep, so you can do that in the web as well.
Oh, I can't
So
really
there's
see that
Word
much.
for web, Excel for web, PowerPoint
Yes.
for web. They all exist as web
Yes.
versions. Teams,
Useless.
there's a web.
No,
yes,
there
yes,
is,
no,
but it's not
yes.
very
Teams
effective.
on the web, but it's not a very effective
Yeah.
experience. So in here, it's because you're in the app, and Matt, great point. It's built within the app, and that's a big differentiator from where you are with, say, ChatGPT,
Yeah, so,
where you've got to copy and paste
yeah.
Yeah.
every window into it, and then the answer back again.
So you're running within the application.
Inside
Yeah.
the application.
So if you're on the web base, it will still be the same figure as the.
Getting a reply.
Okay, because I've never seen that feature.
That's why we wanted to do a little demo for you, so we could,
Okay.
That's good.
give you a.
It's a lot to you. I mean, you get a quote about 5 years.
Yeah.
Would that work?
The other thing, this is another thing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
So you know,
Sorry. Yeah. So this is the full paid application, $535 annually per user. Yep, correct. Yep.
have you got onto a 365 licensing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, it comes this way.
Yeah.
Touch it with lights too.
So
Certainly Kalani.
well,
I think free, and there's some not for a fee.
yeah.
Free, like either way, there's the price of but it is spoken that way, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the other things that we've also set up that we've used AI for is to set up like workflows within our organisation to enable us to automate activities and things like that. So this is a pretty simple one here where we've created one to do like people to do a holiday application, which is quite valid at the moment. Few people taking leave coming up in the next month or so with Christmas fast approaching. So how that sort of looks, if you like. So here's one that we prepared earlier. So here's an application that came from HeyUjet. There you are. So I can approve or reject that. So I'll approve it. And what that does is it sends an email in the background off to accounts so that they know that that person's going to be on leave. But the other bit of magic that it does as well, which is super cool, is they put their leave into the calendar here. So that basically you've got a leave calendar. You can see when everyone's on leave and whatever. Yeah.
Two questions. That approves action and how long is that specific to Copilot?
No, that's just of Teams, but you can use Copilot to help you to build those flows and things like that. Yeah, because it does a lot of stuff. I'm only really just showing you how to use it with Word and Outlook and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's.
Have you used the Copilot functionality when you're building a flow, right? Make suggestions?
Yeah.
In the category of idle at the automate part. Yeah. And I the density or there's a visual requirement that will fill in one mess. Do you also find it frustrating to just change everything and just content that? Without automate, whenever I ask Copilot to make a suggestion, it just changes things. And I'm like, I wish you at least told me and then I could have chosen it. Because then I have to read all my work. Hey, it's cool. I think that's it like the stopping Harry with it in like
Oops. Yeah, the other thing you might see here with Copilot, you've got work. So if you're in the work mode, this is where it'll interrogate your data that's inside the Microsoft graph, as it's called, or SharePoint, Teams, Outlook, all that sort of stuff. Or then you can use it to sort of interrogate the web. So if you want to ask sort of questions that are more specific to products that aren't, or information not within your organisation, then you can switch over to that way. Sorry, Dan.
On the work version.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned about SharePoint. So that will go through every document that you have in your repository as previously.
Yeah.
But that might be over the years. Trawl through all that is how person so
That's the theory. No, yes, it does. Yeah, and it's always perfect. No.
which one's talked to is maybe you don't want to go through all your SharePoint files. You consider the sharing. What general staffing I will ask about, but in China. I said right. So missions being an event guidance was talked about.
So back into Teams again. What I wanted to show you here. Sure.
So following on from that, are you saying that automatically it's defaulted so that anyone in your organisation can search your information?
Yes.
Right.
So that's why it's
no different from what you can do on the web with the other outsources.
So there's two parts to it.
Yeah, please.
Better to work as a team.
Yep, teamwork. I love the fact that you brought up the web and the work. And that was great. The web one is particularly good if you've got, say, a website that may have a policy document. It's really long, it's really hard to understand. You can use that to summarise the policy document. It automatically creates, if you will, an FAQ. So what is the rights for me to take leave? What is the government policy with respect to taxation? I've got home care for my mother-in-law. We get asked the home care policy about what are the rights for being able to get gardening or maintenance on the building, but they're having to trawl through hundreds of pages of information. So that's the web button. Work will turn its attention to your internal documents. And by default, it will look to all your internal documents. So to your question, yes, it will see all those SharePoint documents and OneDrive documents.
Sorry, only if you've shared it with the team, because you've... No?
It sees everything. It sees all.
Oh, okay.
So this is where you then want to say, Gail, you're only able to see the HR and accounting information. But over here we've got Sean, who's actually able to see matters to do with confidential development of an agreement, the terms and conditions. So when you do the query and say, tell me what Sean's working on, Sean's working on stuff, but you can't see his stuff. Because Sean said, no, it's my stuff, unless you decide you want to share it with Gail. But the Copilot sees all. But based on the permissions defined in that group, individual,
Yes.
you will or won't be able to see it.
So sorry, because I mean, my understanding is you share by email. So if you want somebody to share documents, you share that email, you give them permissions.
So more than email.
So
So
Copilot
email's
just
part of it. Copilot.
overrides everything.
Matt used a great term a moment ago called the Microsoft Graph.
Right.
So in the world where many of the people here are working, they're probably working with SharePoint.
Yes.
Yes. Teams. Yes. OneDrive. Yes. They've all got different ways in which they're storing files. And they're in the cloud. Copilot sees it all,
Okay. The master.
including your email. And if you're saying this email is confidential to me and Matt only, and anybody, Sean comes along and says, I want to see the email that was sent by Sean and Gail. No, you can't see that. You won't see visibility to that. That's between Matt and between Gail. It's not between you. Sorry, mate. You can't see it because they've agreed that that's confidential between the two of those. So even though Copilot sees all, the theme of today's session is governance. And so it's really important to set that governance up in a business.
What would happen if one of them agrees and the other one disagrees? Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility. Yep. But then you would say, if you've got administration rights, Matt, and you say, oh, I'm going to let Sean in on this group, then that's on him. And there's an audit log to say that, yep, Matt's the one who granted permission to Sean to see that information. Now Sean can go and look at that information, see that information. He might be working on a document, you think, oh, I want Sean's input on this. Gail might get really about that because she didn't think it was right to have Sean in that conversation. So this kind of permissions and controls is possible, but imagine in a world where you didn't have that, where now you could see everything that was going on in the business between Gail, Matt, Sean, Austin, Tommy, the whole lot. That's dangerous. And I'll get ahead of myself in terms of what I was going to share about some experiences I've had where Copilot is amazing that it gives you that ability to see in your work without having to copy and paste into ChatGPT or Gemini or Propensity. You're already seeing that value there that Matt's done a great job of showing. But imagine you had no controls. And a private school in Sydney did that. They put in Copilot, hundreds of students, administrators and staff, and it was great for a while. Until one of the students said, give me the salaries of all the teaching staff. And they were able to get it. And another sad example is where the governance hadn't been put in place in a construction company, 105 employee construction company. And they gave it to the people who are doing cost analysis and cost modelling, they're sitting in Excel, getting great results on how to cost optimise a building site. They're getting great information on how to build legal terms for the construction of a new site. It was creating all the terms for them. Brilliant. Until they gave it to a site manager, and a site manager said, give me a list of all the female employees under 35 with their phone numbers. Because the HR department hadn't put in the governance and control to prohibit that. They had activated one service, and the Moncrieff people would know which that one is, DLP, data loss prevention. They've actually probably already bought it. So an alert went off to say, this confidential information has left our business. As business owners, you're all aware of the Privacy Act of 2018, notifiable data breach. Yep, you are. So as leaders, as owners of your business, you've got a responsibility to ensure that personally identifiable information doesn't leave your business. You've got a feature in Microsoft 365, which the team, Tommy, maybe not Tommy who's doing the marketing side, but the Matt's team could activate called DLP, data loss prevention. And it basically will alert you or them to say personally identifiable information. The age of the girl, their phone number, personally identifiable. And an alert went off to say that was lost. So that's one feature in data and governance that I'd commend you to think about activating straight away if you haven't done it already.
The other point too, and probably a little bit more to Dan's point earlier on, part of the governance is getting rid of all the old stuff.
Totally.
Because you don't want to be using these tools to interrogate, really old information that's out of date, that doesn't really reflect your organisation anymore, if you like.
Dan asked a question about SharePoint.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things that you really want to think about is doing archival of old documents.
Yeah.
Or when you ask the question, and this is called prompting, when you ask the prompt, working with only the most recent versions of our documentation and policies, what would be the appropriate approach to whatever it was? So by guiding it to say, I'm only working with the most recent versions of files. If you just say, give me the policy on, and it sees 10 different documents which are related to that policy, I don't know which one's going to come up with.
Will it come up with all 10?
But if you could say, give me the 10, you can actually, one of the great queries is, can you tell me the difference between the 10 policy documents that exist and the version between? So you don't have to cast your eye over those and go, oh yeah, that changed, oh that changed. What were the key changes between the 10 versions of policy document dating back to 2018? And it could actually give you that. Now the good thing is, in using this, instead of ChatGPT or Complexity or a board, you'd have happy to copy those documents into those consumer-based systems. Now the rest of the world would see your internal policy documents. I hope you all appreciate that consumer-based AI like Claude, Propensity, ChatGPT, you put stuff into it, it remembers it, it learns from it, it will give it to other people. By way of example, a manufacturing company that I met in Sydney recently, after I'd shared this other stories and the need for governance, he came, yeah, I wish we'd known that. We were making a drone, a carbon-based drone for the Department of Defence, and very detailed specifications on that drone. And we wanted to make it simple. We wanted to make it simple for, we got two, for the heads of the Department of Defence to understand what was going on. So we hired somebody in, well-meaning intern, and interns are great, don't get me wrong. Interns came in.
Can I pin that?
Do you want to put that in? Yeah.
That'd be a lot easier.
Cool.
So hold on.
Thank you. Took that detailed specification, and what do you think they put it into? Because that's what they were taught at university. ChatGPT. Within 2 hours, the Department of Defence is on the phone, because they have surveillance systems. They're always asking ChatGPT about things that they're working on. And it came back and said, yep, this bloke in Artarmon has been working on developing a drone. It's got these detailed specifications. So he got the phone call saying, mate, we can't buy your drone. All your detailed specs for your beautiful drone are now in the public domain because ChatGPT remembered it. And when they asked him for it, they got it back. It's horrific. But people just don't understand this is what's going on with Gemini, Propensity. They don't. No, now you do.
Yeah, but that we are taking the industry a detour.
You mentioned that. It's scary.
Don't use cacao.
Well, I think that's
where it's like really scary.
It is.
Don't.
They don't. Most Gen AI out there today is consumer-based AI. You had a great slide up a moment ago that 80% of small businesses. In Australia, it's actually 84% of businesses in this country have got some sort of generative AI today. If you went through your staff and asked them, have you got ChatGPT, have you got Propensity, have you got Claude, they probably got it. And what are they using? They're taking, I had one in an event like this say, oh, I don't like Copilot because it doesn't create very colourful email replies to my email. And I went, whoa, I shared this with you. He'd taken his emails, put them in ChatGPT, asked for an answer to how to reply, got it back. I said, I know you, Tony. And I now see, went to the keyboards, you've been working on stuff in southwest Sydney, working on construction. How'd you get that? What? Because you put your email into ChatGPT. Now imagine if you're a lawyer and you're working on some terms and conditions and then suddenly the opposition is able to see exactly what your position and your posture might be. You're working on a research document, like that manufacturing of the drone. Your competition's there seeing what those specifications are. Look, I think consumer AI is brilliant. ChatGPT, Propensity, Gemini, it's fantastic for holiday planning, for writing poetry, for creating pretty pictures. But please don't use it in business.
Okay, to what everybody says. So what's your solution?
Sorry, mate.
Just in case you didn't get it, Microsoft Copilot.
No, sorry,
having said that,
technology.
having said that, I mean, obviously, you've got to back it all the way up. and implement the Microsoft modern work environment, SharePoint, Teams,
You need an expert.
your email if you haven't done it yet. And then once you've got all that in, implement the security features, the data governance features and things like that, got rid of all the old data, cleaned up all the data. That's when you can start implementing AI to make it difference. Now I'm going to do one more bit of, so you can set up little chat bots within your organisation, but one I wanted to show which is really cool. So this here is a meeting that we had earlier on today with a customer. We were doing project progress meeting, came back. So basically just from us, sorry.
Make-believe me, this is a
So-
make-believe meeting.
This is for real. So this is actually, well, sorry, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
We haven't done that.
So this is the meeting notes that it came up with and then the follow-up tasks. And so it creates that based on your talk in the actual meeting.
If you turn on transcription.
And all that.
Correct.
Stuff,
If you
so then you can grab that, yep, that looks good, change whatever you need to change, send it off to custody, is what we agreed to. So it really, mate, like, you know what it's like trying to follow up after a meeting, you know how long that can take. Yeah, this cuts out 45 minutes to an hour of that task.
So this is.
And so, yeah, so effectively, I suppose what I'm trying to say is the ROI of, implementing good, implementing the Microsoft modern work, good data, governance and things like that, and then AI is going to pay off very, very quickly. Very quickly for organisations.
Sorry, Matt, to interrupt.
Yep.
So what you're also saying is no different is when people use the AI to interpret meetings, this Fireflies and this
Otter, Read AI.
they're the same as everything else.
This is different.
No, what I'm saying is again, no different to ChatGPT, this Fireflies and this
Exactly.
Ollie stuff. or
So
whatever.
our legal department has now said if we're holding a meeting or a webinar and you see a Read AI, we actually have this holding slide now that comes up and said, if you're using a consumer AI product like Otter or Read, I have not given approval. You are in breach of the Australian Surveillance Devices Act.
Projects here.
Because I have not agreed. And now under the Surveillance Act, both parties must agree to the transcription.
Well,
And so people who jump into your calls when you run, I run webinars, and now I put up a slide that says, if I see you with an Otter or a Read AI or one of those, I check them out of the meeting because I haven't agreed for them to record my meeting.
let's little.
And under the Surveillance Act, I'm quite within my rights to kick them out.
So the solution is Microsoft
Yes.
in your organization.
Within your organisation, you get the transcript, and of course, if that meeting was being transcribed, a message pops up to you as a user that says, do you agree to this meeting being recorded and transcribed in compliance with the privacy acts of the country? If you then opt in and say yes, it will record and you will continue. If you don't agree, you disconnect. In the lawyer community, we actually, because lawyers hate transcripts.
Good.
Yep. We actually have the ability for you to turn off the transcript but still ask questions of the meeting. So there is a hidden transcript which is not accessible to any employees, but you can still ask questions because all the AI is coming from a transcript, but there is no, and you can't ask it, in a lawyer session I did recently, well, I'll just ask you for a transcript. No, that's one of the questions that it will say, I can't comply with that, sorry. Computer says no.
Bring